It's all starting to make sense. The constant posts.
For the first time since Caitlin Clark came, the Indiana Fever are pleading with fans to purchase tickets. There are still $280 seats available for preseason games. There are whole parts of the home opener that are unsold. The same group that sold past year in less than an hour. The same squad is the most popular in women's basketball, and supporters are telling them exactly why they're not purchasing. They won't be duped again since they recall the previous season, when your group is the most well-liked player in women's basketball, and a week before the season begins, you are still unable to sell out your home opener. Does that indicate that the supporters have lost faith in your team's management of that player? Or is it just about the cost of tickets, as well as the economy?
More. I've never seen them ask more. I've never seen them demand more. I've never seen them tweet more. When it comes to ticket sales and trying to sell out an arena, I have never seen the Indiana Fever ask more than they are asking now. And I am beginning to find...
Let's discuss the current state of Indiana Fever ticket sales, since this is one of the circumstances where the organization refuses to acknowledge the story the numbers reveal. The Fever has been making frequent posts regarding the availability of tickets. They are tweeting. People are being reminded. They are exerting more effort than they ever need to persuade fans to purchase tickets. And for a squad that includes Caitlin Clark, this is absolutely unheard of. On the roster, tickets sold out in the first 2 years of the Caitlin Clark era. First year, vanished in a matter of minutes. The second year, the same thing. Tickets were not available for long enough due to the Fever. People were rushing to obtain into gaming. The secondary market was crazy. Due to demand, you were physically unable to purchase tickets for face value. Was really high. The Caitlin Clark impact was that the Indiana Fever are the most attractive team in women's basketball. Most sought after WNBA ticket.
He lets us all know tickets are moving a little slowly for the Indiana Fever. When you compare it to the first year, flew off the shelves. When you compare it to the second year, hashtag now you know, flew off the shelves. They couldn't keep them long enough. Now, we are a week away from preseason. A lot of tickets available. We are about 2 weeks away from the regular season. A lot of tickets available. Not only are they available, but the Indiana Fever, these tickets are high. Like, I wouldn't spend that much money on tickets.
However, there are a ton of tickets available now that the preseason is 1 week away and the regular season is 2 weeks away. Nor just sporadic evening games, nor just nosebleed seats. Parts of the home opener against the Dallas Wings are completely empty. Seats on the upper deck are still available for more than $100. The middle sections range from $300 to $400. The cost of seats behind the bench ranges from $700 to $900. Additionally, no one is purchasing preseason tickets are even more expensive. Between $100 and $280 preseason. Uncountable games. Practice games that test starters and rotations. May only play a few minutes. Additionally, those seats cost $280 from the Fever. The cost of those games is absurd. Those are scrimmages elevated to a higher level. Additionally, fans are declining those charges. The Fever and their supporters are now. Will make reference to the economy. The cost of gas has increased. The cost of airfare is high. Living expenses have increased. The grocery store is cruel. That's all true. Discretionary spending, such as purchasing sports tickets, is undoubtedly influenced by economic reasons. No one disputes that. Here's the problem though. Last year, the economy was also difficult. Inflation has been a problem for years, but last season's tickets sold out right away. What has changed then? Why do supporters who were willing are reluctant to get tickets this year after paying high costs last year? Trust is the solution. Alternatively, more precisely, the fan base's total lack of faith in the organization due to how they handled Caitlin Clark from the previous season.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? Especially when you don't know the role of your favorite player. People remember last year. Day to day, day to day, day to day, day to day, and they would spend tickets and spend money and spend money.
Let's discuss what transpired last year and why fans are currently reluctant to purchase tickets. Caitlin Clark suffered an injury. With her status, the team went into daily mode. There was uncertainty in every game. Is she having fun? Is she not having fun? Fans who purchase tickets weeks or months in advance would not know until just before tip-off. Arrive for games only to discover that Clark is not participating.
At Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White said before the game that the fact that she is day-to-day means that the imaging she got today is good news. Still no.
According to one fan in the original content, they traveled to Indianapolis with a friend and stayed at a motel across the. They purchased tickets in advance, were on the street from the arena, and their favorite players weren't performing. It's a terrible experience. You spend money on airfare, make hotel reservations, purchase tickets, and devote time, energy, and effort to seeing Caitlin play. Clark, she's not even in the building when you arrive. Another fan claimed to have purchased tickets at the beginning of the season, spent a lot of money, spent a pricey evening in Indianapolis, and brought their family to 4 games following Caitlin's injury. In order to avoid being burned again, they are also adopting a wait-and-see strategy this year. Right now, ticket sales are being killed by that sentiment. Fans recall being taken advantage of. They recall feeling as though they were being dragged along by the group, which used Caitlin Clark as a circus act to maintain interest and attendance. Because this is what the Fever is doing. They would declare that Caitlin was almost back. Tickets would be purchased by fans for that game. They would then add, actually, she needs another week or two, just before the game. However, the tickets had already been sold. Fans attended games expecting to see Clark, but instead received a depleted roster as an alternative. And by August, injuries had destroyed the team. However, fans had already made a commitment. Money, they had already made arrangements. They had previously made an investment to watch Caitlin Clark play hoops. Additionally, the organization exploited this by stringing individuals along with ambiguous injury updates and daily status updates that never provided followers with specific information regarding whether their investment was going to be profitable.
Craziest thing about this last groin injury with Caitlin Clark is how it's been covered. The day after she had the groin injury, she was listed as day-to-day. And then a couple weeks after that, then she was listed to being out indefinitely. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court. And just yesterday, she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing, so they changed it from a game time decision to her being out. This has been all over the place, and I get it to a certain extent. The fans, the media does not need to know every little thing that's going on with Caitlin Clark's injuries, especially a star player like that. We will never know all the information, nor should we know all the information, and that's actually good for Caitlin. It protects her for when she does come back on the court. She can't be targeted. Teams can't use a certain injury or ailment against her if people don't really know what is going on. But the reporting of her timeline in general, there has been no rhyme or reason to what has been shared about.
People recall that. You can't expect your consumers to return the next year if you treat them that way. Open their wallets. Building trust is difficult, but destroying it is simple. Last season, the Indiana Fever severely damaged faith by how they managed the communication surrounding Caitlin Clark's injury. It goes beyond the injury, too. Administration concerns Clark's use in the corner by the squad when she was in good health. When fans arrived, they anticipated seeing Caitlin Clark lead the offense, create plays. She does everything that makes her the greatest player in women's basketball, including scoring points. Rather, they would observe her sprinting off ball, engaging in cardio. They would stand in corners and observe her, while others watched Stephanie White play her as a small forward. The ball was handled by guards. Theo witnessed the Caitlin Clark experience. Fans paid top dollar. They received the Stephanie White showed where the coach's ideas on how basketball should be played were prioritized over making the most of what Caitlin Clark is unique. Fans also keep it in mind. They recall thinking, I paid how much money to watch? Screens were set by Caitlin Clark. When you consider all that has transpired during the off-season, the roster building that doesn't make sense to signing 8 guards when the team already boasts the world's finest point guard. When they needed size, they drafted Raven Johnson at number 10. Amber Cox discusses restricting Caitlin's time. Stephanie White claims to have. Caitlin has been with her for 25 years, so she is more knowledgeable. Lynn Dunn is calling out followers on Twitter for their criticism. Choices about the roster. All of that results in a company that appears more concerned with demonstrating its superior intelligence than everyone else rather than focusing on developing their generational talent. Fans notice that. They peruse those quotations. They comprehend what is being stated behind the scenes when they watch those interviews. Additionally, they're creating a logical choice to hold off on making an investment until they see how this season truly unfolds. Because what if they purchase tickets? Caitlin is currently limited in the number of minutes she can spend. What happens if they arrive and she plays for 25 minutes instead of 35 because Raven Johnson's development is the organization's goal? What happens if they spend hundreds of dollars on airfare and tickets and hotels just to witness Stephanie White employ the same methodical, slow-moving offensive that hindered the team's top player the previous season? Based on actual data from the previous season and actual statements made by the management this off-season, those are legitimate worries. Fans aren't acting irrationally. They are defending themselves against future burns. They're stating, "Before I give you my money, prove to me that this will be different." Additionally, the economics of it are important. These ticket costs are actually costly. $100 for tickets on the upper deck. For intermediate parts, $300 to $400.700 to $900 to take a seat behind the bench. NBA pricing are those. The Fever is charging them those high market premium franchise rates. For a squad that finished 10-34 the previous season following Caitlin's injury. When fans are confident in your ability to charge such rates, to obtain the item for which they are paying, however, when that confidence is betrayed and fans have previously been let down, all of a sudden, those prices seem much less reasonable. Why would someone purchase a preseason ticket for $280 when theirs? Is it possible that Caitlin will only play a few minutes while the starters rest? Why would someone spend $400 on a regular season game when last year's attendees didn't even get to see her play despite paying that? The Fever is learning a difficult lesson about dealing with customers. Demand cannot be assumed to be constant. Fans are something you cannot take for granted. They cannot be handled like ATMs that you can shake whenever you need cash, because they will eventually cease having faith in you. They will eventually say, "I'm good on that." And that's precisely what is taking place. 70% of tickets are sold when you have. It's embarrassing to have the hottest thing in women's basketball on your roster. It's not a problem with supply. The economy isn't like that. It's a matter of trust. Fans are responding, "We're not sure you're going to," and casting their votes with their money. Provide what we have paid for. This is even more striking when compared to last year. The home opener last year was sold out. In less than an hour, a week before the game, there are a ton of tickets available for this year's home opener. It's a loud disparity. That's hardly a little drop. That is a significant decline in demand. Additionally, it is taking place when the team still has Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Caitlin Clark. On paper, the roster seems superior compared to the previous year. Oh, why aren't fans purchasing? Because they have doubts about the organization's ability to use that roster appropriately. They don't think Stephanie White will make the most of Caitlin Clark. They don't think the front office will put winning ahead of proving their method is effective. They don't have faith that the money they spend will yield the entertainment value they anticipate. Lynn Dunn then labels supporters whiners on Twitter. That is the icing on the cake. Catastrophe. You have a company that is having trouble selling tickets and has obviously done something to undermine fan confidence. And rather than dealing with those issues, a front desk executive is classifying detractors and tell them to stop talking. You know what occurs when businesses act in that way? Fans become even more disinterested. They state, "Oh, do you think I whine too much? Allow me to demonstrate what happens when I fail to show up at all." That's what took place with the Mets when Steve Cohen chastised supporters for not making enough purchases. there was a decline in attendance. Supporters stated, "Do you believe we don't spend enough? Observe us not making any purchases." That's the same route the Indiana Fever are taking. By rejecting valid criticism, they are alienating their fan base by choosing rosters that don't make sense by treating their best player in a way that irritates those who pay to watch her. They are currently paying the price in terms of ticket sales. This is the reality that the Fever organization must comprehend.